Okay, I'm on. I'm on, Heather. Hello. How was everybody's weekend? Can you hear me good? I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. Today, I'm going to bring on another Gold Star family, and she's going to tell about her son, what happened. Um, we had met probably, I think it's been close to a year ago now. Um, I've been trying to help families get through the system. I'm the only person that's ever had a homicide case reopened by DOD OIG's office. I began helping other families, trying to guide them through the system. It's totally different than the state. If you ever seen that movie, A Few Good Men, that's really how it is. That's how it is. Our justice system is quite different. So I'm gonna bring Heather on, and I'm gonna let Heather talk and tell her story. I'm gonna do it by phone. Hope this works pretty good. I'm hoping for the best. Heather lost her son about a year ago, and she's still trying to get answers. So let's call Heather. Can everyone hear me good?
This is Shanta, everyone. Hey, Shanta, guess what? You're live on your channel and I'm live on mine.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, just let us know if you can hear.
Heather.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. I hear you.
Huh?
You there?
Yeah.
Okay. How's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah. Good. Well, I feel like we've been talking all day already, actually.
Yeah.
There's some days, like that we wake up and you're the first person I talk to. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I was just saying a while ago to my audience that you are like I just had this idea like phone a friend, right?
Let's start this
Phone
way.
a friend. And in a situation like this, you have to phone a friend. And so I'm so glad that I freaking had you. Actually, I didn't even phone you. I remember how we actually came about. But before I say any of that, I just wanted to say thanks for letting me hang out with you guys tonight on your channel.
Thank you. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, I think it's what an honor. And I mean, for somebody that has, I think about you, like you being fighting for justice for your sister, Kamisha, for over 14 years now. It's like I couldn't even believe whenever we finally ran into one another. But I just it is kind of like meeting thinking about all the things that you've walked through, all the fire you've walked through. Just to be able to offer me a hand up in this whole deal. And I think about my folks, you guys don't know a whole lot about Shanta, but I want to encourage you right now, and I'm going to say this throughout this please go to her page and friend or check or whatever, like her channel. I get lost on all the social media terminology, platform, different terminology. But anyway, oops. So Caleb, I'll tell the story of Caleb, but just to kind of give people an idea of how we know one another. Shant and I met about, I would say, probably 2 or 3 months after Caleb died. And Caleb died on January, well, actually, I say he died on January the 21st. That's actually the day his body was found. The Army still has yet to be able to tell me when Caleb died. We still don't know that. Now we can kind of speculate when he died just based on decomposition. But it's a really big mess to be in. And when you have somebody, like I made a post on my own personal Facebook page. I'll never forget this day. I wish I had written it down. I'm sure I could go back on my page and find it or something. But I'd made this post about what had happened to my son, Caleb, PD2 Caleb Smither. And all of a sudden, I see comment after comment after comment of this group of like maybe 3 people. And I believe it was Jen Norris and Shanta and Terry Caserta, of the Brandon Act. And that was a trippy moment because I thought I was all alone. I mean, like...
Hold on just a minute, Heather.
Okay.
So Heather's going to be telling about what happened to her son in the military, what she knows, and what maybe she's learned later on. All right, go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, and just feel free to stop me anytime and ask a question if something doesn't make sense. Because it's it's all convoluted, right? There's so much convoluted, so many holes. I think about your sister's situation, all the holes and all the redaction, and then of course in your case there's no investigations in certain areas, and so it's just like, oh my God. Okay, where was I? Somebody help me. Where was I? I was just basically talking about how we knew each other, how we got to know each other, and so basically one day I made this post and I see all these different comments, and I remember private messaging you and going, hey, what the heck? Who are you? And tell me more. Like, what's going on? Because the comments that these people were making were things like, it's happening again. I know. Can you believe it? Oh my goodness. And it sounds just like so-and-so's case, or, that sort of, it went down that sort of line. And the very next thing I know, I'm on the phone talking to this little lady right here, Shanta Block, and she's telling me the whole story of what happened to her sister. I mean, and you're just like, you've just been through hell and back by just having to, going through the initial, like, your son's dead and all the ceremony of the sorry.
It's all right.
There's just so much going on, and then you get the phone call about. I mean, I didn't know what to do. Like, you're like, is this girl for real? And the more I listened to Shanta, and the more I asked questions, I was like, oh my goodness, like, she's for real. And the things that have happened, like the things that she's even warned me about, guys, those kinds of things have actually legitimately happened,
The patterns. It's the patterns done to Gold Star families. They play games on them to get them to stop.
That's right. So, I am just so grateful for being able to have just a battle buddy myself. Like, I view you as my battle sister, my battle buddy, right? And I think what we do is we just lead with the same kind of service as our soldier would lead with, and integrity and all of that. And I guess I didn't realize when Caleb signed up for the Army a little over a year ago, or a little over a year and a half ago, I guess. Gosh, he joined May 28th of 2019. So he was only in the Army for like 8 months.
Yeah, and tell us what happened to him. What happened, Heather?
Well, so Caleb was a 91 Lima. He was a track line mechanic. He was at Fort Leonard Wood for basic training and for AIT, and he stayed there for AIT at Fort Leonard Wood and learned, this trade of being a mechanic, a track line mechanic. And after that, he came home for a real short bit, like maybe like a week and a half, and he was here for hometown recruiting. He came to my school. I'm a teacher at a local elementary, and he came and he even had the heart to build the team, right? He left shortly after that. He left actually on Thanksgiving Day of 2019, which would have been November the 28th, I believe. I drove him to the DFW airport. They even made me drive him the whole 6 hours away. Isn't that crazy? Even though we have a local airport. So anyways, I leave Caleb on the 28th of November, 2019, DFW airport. They let me go back, which is a courtesy they do or have for families, which was nice. And I'll never forget watching his plane fly away for the very last time. And I stood there at those windows and I just watched. I watched as he went down the hallway to the, enter the plane and all that when he boarded. And he was so proud to be able to board, first, just to show his pride and his ownership of making a choice to serve his country, because that's just kind of one of those things they do for service members, I'll let him board first. Well, anyway, I watched him walk away for the very last time ever. Mm-hmm. And he arrived at Fort Bragg. He was there for about 7 weeks and 4 days before they found him in his barrack room. And, I guess the shocking part of this entire story is that, there's a lot of shocking parts. Let me rephrase that. But one of the shocking points is that his body was too decomposed to be viewable at his funeral. Mm-hmm. And, that was like an entire, first of all, they were telling me like 3 to 4 weeks before his body even was going to be here. But let me get back to the story, chronologically. So,
when did Caleb hit his head?
Well, okay, there's some confusion about that, perhaps. There's a lot of
paperwork saying two different things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, some people say the 13th, and some people say the 9th. Mm-hmm. And, there's no paperwork to prove any of it, so it's like, there's, they didn't do any kind of accident report or anything like that. Mm-hmm. They said that they had told Caleb to go to the ER, and that he went. But since there's such confusion about the date there's some discrepancy there. It's really confusing. And of course, when you're reading that CID report, Shanta, or any of the reports, they're redacted. It's almost impossible to even know who is speaking.
Right, yeah. You don't know who's speaking. You don't know whose sworn statements, everything's blacked out. And if it's important, it's goddamn for sure blacked out.
That's right. And like yours, you in some of your reports, I know you've had some reports that have certain things and some that don't. Mm-hmm. And it's the same report, right? It's the same one that's been ordered. The same thing with mine, like in the CID report, there'll be interviews of soldiers, and it'll say one thing, and then later on it'll say another. It'll have another juicy morsel in there, just one little line or something, Mm-hmm. And you're like, dadgum, I mean, like, you got to read everything 1,000 times.
Right. And every time you read it, you learn something.
Let's see, I guess I was notified on the 22nd of Caleb's death. The Fort Hood Casualty Assistance Office was assigned to notify me. Mm-hmm. And I know you have quite a bit of history with Fort Hood. Mm-hmm. And I've had some interesting experiences with the folks over there. I don't think they run a very clean ship.
Right.
Just tell you that. I don't have as much beef with them as you do, but I sure have some beef with them.
Okay, so in Heather's case, like, what really went wrong was she don't know what day her son actually died, for one. Number two, he hit his head. He was sent to medical, and medical turned him away.
They turned him away on the, yep.
And what did he go in there 3 times, Heather?
He went to the ER 3 times.
And they turned him away each time and said, go to your barracks. And he ended up dying in his bed.
They turned him away the first time, and they told him that he had to go to his primary care manager. And then the very next day, he showed up late for a formation. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, somebody goes and looks for him. Mm-hmm. And he, comes out wearing goggles, night vision goggles, because his head hurts so bad.
Okay, how did he hit his head, Heather? Tell us how he hit his head.
Okay, so whatever day it is, right? Mm-hmm. He hits his head on this trackline vehicle called a Deuce, and it's got a radiator that tracks up like a 45-degree angle. And anyway, he backs up and he hits his head on that thing, and
has a concussion.
He has a concussion. Mm-hmm. So then he's sent away, right? He's sent away from the
sent to medical, and then sent away.
Right. So back to, he's in on the 14th. He's in formation late, and somebody comes to grab him, and he's wearing like night vision goggles, and he's talking about how he's nauseous and he has the worst headache of his life, and anyway, so at that point somebody takes him to the ER, right? Mm-hmm. And they take him to the ER. They give him like 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, and they give him like some sort of shot, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the very next, so he goes home, right? Mm-hmm. The very next morning, he's still so sick that he needs to go to the ER again. Mm-hmm. So on the 15th, again, early in the morning, he goes to the ER. I mean, he's so sick that he can't even keep water down or food. And
right.
He's,
like septic. So he's septic at that point.
There's people that are around him and everything. And here, let me just tell you the outcome of this whole thing. This is what throws the whole key. There's a wrench in this whole thing, and the wrench is is that when they did the toxicology report, they discovered that he had acute bacterial meningitis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, acute bacterial meningitis can only be caused in one of two ways, and that is first to either have had a concussion, like a head wound, or to have had brain surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the most logical way he could have, I mean, they can't even tell me how he got it. They're denying the link between the concussion and the meningitis.
Right. Wait a minute, Heather. Y'all, and she's on a year now. She's on a year now trying to find out what happened to her son.
Yes.
And she don't even know what day he died on. Okay, go ahead, Heather.
It's been over a year, Shanta, and guess what? I just now finally got like the 15-6 report and the line of duty report, and I think there was a couple more. But and I hate you know what, I hate saying that to you because I know that you didn't get everything, you know, and it's so messed up. They pick and choose what they want to give you, and I still haven't read all of those reports that they gave me 2 weeks ago because my heart just can't handle it yet. But I'm getting there. Being able to have a voice like this helps me to become stronger to walk through some of these difficult things.
Heather, one more thing. We got one more question. How many days did they let him lay there and die? This is a discrepancy too. There's too many stories. Okay, go ahead, Heather.
So let me go ahead and talk about that. So if I have this, I should take a picture of this and put it on TikTok. I'll do that. It's a picture of the calendar of what they propose is, and I know it's backwards for my camera right now, but anyway, I'll put this on my page soon. So January the 14th and the 15th, he went to the ER back to back, and we have medical records of those two visits. Now, we don't have medical records of the visit where he was turned away, but we're going to try to work around that with some. We've got some creative. Me and my attorney have some creative ideas on that, because they're wanting to deny that fact, even though there are multiple reports in this CID report that says that he was turned away. So anyway, so the 14th and the 15th, he went to the ER, and then he entered his room for the very last time on January the 15th at like 10:58 in the morning. Okay? Now, when the command gave this calendar to me a couple weeks ago, now on the 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th, that was a 4-day holiday. That was the Martin Luther King holiday. I understand it's a holiday, but if you have a soldier, you still have to check on them, and if you've been given orders, right? It doesn't matter if there's a holiday. If you've been ordered to check on somebody, you have to follow that order. They say that his last known contact was on the 17th, and I can prove through phone records that there's no way that account could even be true.
You guys, that's what I mean by paperwork not lining up. Like in my case, the platoon sergeant is, pointing the finger at the first sergeant. The first sergeant was pointing the finger at the platoon sergeant. And then he said, well, hell, it came over my head. I don't even know where the order come from. I mean, there's shit that's just not adding up on these cases, okay? Families aren't getting answers. We've got grieving parents still don't even know what day their child died on. Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, it's awful. Because, here's the deal, guys. I mean, I know it doesn't matter to some people, but it's like it does to me because, I mean, I got to put, his memorial up and stuff. What day did he actually die?
I know.
What day? put on that forever.
They're putting families through hell, man. They call us Gold Star families, and they don't, half the soldiers don't even know what that means. And when you say I'm a Gold Star family, they're like, congratulations. Sorry, that's not a congratulations. My soldier died. That's what that means.
Yeah.
That's not a congratulations.
I think, honestly. I'm sorry, I don't need to be so crude, but
we need to start educating these people.
It's,
we're treated like shit.
Bamboozled by all of it. And you've been through so many different things. I've been through so many different things. It's a mess. It is a mess.
What we've been through, that's right.
It's a shit show.
Yeah.
I will tell you that. So here's the crux of it all, is that there was a soldier, a specialist that was tasked to check on Caleb. Now, why they're only holding a specialist accountable, I don't understand, but they're not really even holding him that accountable. What I understand is they're moving him to E1. They're just demoting him.
Okay, and here's my theory on this, y'all. Here's my theory on this.
You have a different theory, yes.
An E4 is a nobody. His order came from the platoon sergeant, the squad leader, the platoon sergeant, the first sergeant, the captain. This is a lower ranked soldier that has no pull, has no voice, and they gave him the blame in this shit.
Yeah.
Okay, and let me tell you, if he was, hold on, Heather, hold on. So if her child, this is the main thing in her case. So if her child died in his bed, okay, why didn't nobody check on him? When they had a line, PT or whatever they call it the next day, and he didn't show up, wouldn't you think it had got around to the squad leader? And don't you think what he would have said, go get fucking Smitty?
Yep. And you know what they did? They waited until the 21st. On the 21st, they already knew that Caleb had not shown up to morning PT on the 21st, because remember, we're back to norm, right, on the 21st. So the 4-day holiday is over and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, so he shows up, he doesn't show up to PT, and he misses his appointment at the ER, like a follow-up appointment. So he misses those two things, and yet instead of going straight to Caleb's room to check on him, guess what the NCO does? He goes to work. He goes to work instead.
So we can
get all day there until around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then around 2 o'clock is when he goes, well, I guess it's time for me to go check on Smither. He's not been around anywhere.
Okay, and one more thing, Heather. His body was found decomposed, and they claim that he was only dead 1 day before they found him.
They claim that the last person that ever talked to him was on the 17th of January. But I mean, there's no proof of any of that, because I actually have proof that there's no way that he could have talked to anybody on that day, because all of his last known contact stops on the 15th. If all the last known contact stops on the 15th at around 2 o'clock, and nobody checks on him from the 15th all the way until the 21st, how many days is that? So that's why I say about 6.5 days, right? And, his body was so decomposed, Shanta, that it's like, his body was in the putrefaction and mummification stage. And so that's the 5th stage of decomposition. So that body had been laying there for some time. There was even moldy food in the room.
And the neighbor was spraying Febreze, but nobody checked on him. you know?
So in the CID report, his roommate, see, they had, the way their room was set up is that they had a common living area that had, like, the main door had a key card entry, and then there's 2 separate rooms for 2 separate soldiers with 2 separate key card entries, right? And so, anyway, in the CID report, his roommate saying that, first of all, he didn't know Caleb had a head injury, and then later on, maybe like 20 pages later, he's talking about how he knew Caleb had a head injury, and that he'd been acting dazed and confused and all this kind of thing, you know?
Right.
And then he goes away for the weekend, and he's back and forth, you know, hanging out with his friends, partying, you know, and he's laying, like, things, like, by Caleb's room for him to pick up. You know, he's knocking on Caleb's door, like, and he said no, you know, Caleb did never answer, but he, you know, so that's a check. Is that a check? Because Caleb didn't answer, so is that a real check? Like, that's one question I've had this whole time is, what does a check look like?
Right.
What does a check look like? And to me, like, it looks like an eyes-on check, especially if you have somebody that have had a concussion.
Right.
Head injury, whatever. You know, Caleb wasn't one of those kids to complain either. He wasn't a pussy.
Right.
Sorry, my language.
Tell us about Caleb a little bit. How was he in high school? Who was he?
Caleb. Oh my gosh, Shanta. He was an amazing athlete. He was extremely fast. He ran the 400. He ran a single race in the 400, and then he also ran the relay. And he's got lots and lots of medals. One of the funny stories out there at Fort Bragg is when he first got there, because he was over there for Christmas and nobody's working except for, you know, who just had to be there, you know. And the kid is hopped up on some kind of I don't know, drugs or whatever, and these other sergeants are, like, holding him down, and the MPs keep driving by. They can't find him.
That's what my sister was, an MP.
So they tell Caleb to go run and catch the MPs, and the guys that told me, and they said they'd never seen anybody run so damn fast. Which makes me pretty proud of him, but you know, he was a funny kid. He was always pestering people, but he was real quiet around. I mean, he could be real quiet. He could be real ornery and loud, but
he was at Fort Bragg, wasn't he, Heather?
He was at Fort Bragg. He was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 82nd Airborne Division.
And what was the cause of death they told you?
Team. He was a Falcon, and I know he was part of Badgers.
And Heather, what was the cause of death on the casualty of death paper? What was the cause of death?
Natural causes.
Natural causes. Okay. Wasn't negligence? Wasn't medical negligence?
Even though there are some really peculiar things, other things like you know, there was a comment in one of the CID report that said that his body looked like it had been moved. He had, when they found his body, he had a blanket just over the lower half of his body. He was found on the floor, so it's like he rolled off on the floor maybe and was found on the floor. But it's the way his body was positioned. There was some question about that even in the CID report. I'll have to go and track that.
And Heather, one more thing that's important, something that you've told me over, you know, the year. Tell us that story about how you were treated as a Gold Star member on the plane. The airplane? Right. Tell us what happened that day and what happened.
Oh my God, Shanta. Okay, so I was headed to Fort Bragg for Caleb's memorial. And, you know, here I am just barely, I mean, like, we're just like maybe a month out, right? And here they're doing this wonderful memorial for Caleb over there. I get on American Airlines. Did you notice what I said? I said American. And you know, here we are. We're about to miss our next connecting flight out of Lubbock because of the weather. And so we let the folks know on the airplane that we are Gold Star family and that we're trying to get to Fort Bragg for a memorial for our patriot. Well, she lets the captain know, and before they let everybody off, they say, well, everyone please stay in their seats while the Gold Star family exits the aircraft. Well, the thing is, Shanta, is nobody knows what a Gold Star family is.
Right, nobody knows.
I really think that they thought, in all honesty, that maybe I had some sort of membership with the airplane or something. The Gold Star family, you know?
Yeah.
But here's what happened is that everybody stood up and butted us out of the way.
Right.
And we missed our flight. When I get off the aircraft, I immediately, because what we thought that they were going to do is call down on the ground and let them know that we were headed that way, and to help us get to our connecting flight. When we got off the plane, nobody was there to help us. Nobody knew anything, and so we were misinformed. I think it was a misunderstanding or whatever it was. But
right. It's just that people aren't educated. The civilian world isn't. They're not educated in the military talk. They don't know what's going on in there. They think that the same justice system applies over there in the state, and it don't even exist. The DOJ and the DOD are two separate entities. One doesn't hold power over the other. They're separate entities, period. The only way the FBI will come in and investigate anything is that the DOD calls the DOJ and asks them, and they'll send them. Go ahead, Heather.
Thank you, Shanta.
You're welcome.
Well, anyway, so we're at the airport, and we're just, I'm trying to get a flight reconnected and everything, and there's a huge long line, and we've tried to, I don't know, it was a mess. It was a total mess, and the way that American Airlines treated us was horrible, and I told them, I said, how un-American you guys are. I was like, you guys are very un-American, when I got back on the airplane after Caleb's memorial, we were on American as well, and my husband at the time, he has a seizure condition, and I also have a neurological condition called dystonia that causes my muscles to move erratically. So we're both, so we're standing there waiting, we're next in line to get on, to check in or whatever, and because we didn't move really fast, and I told them, I said, I'm sorry, my son just died. I was really emotional. So I was just moving really slowly, and I was having symptoms, and I was watching him, and anyway, she yells at us, and we're like, whoa, and then finally another Good Samaritan that works for American Airlines was like, I'll help you, because she was yelling, I'm not helping these people. I'm not helping you. Yeah, it was just a nightmare. And so, and I think about, Shanta, whenever you go to the grocery store or whenever you go someplace where they ask you are you a service member? Mm-hmm. I hate that question. It is not because I hate service members, right, or anything like that, but it's just a hard question to be asked when you're standing in public. And you're fighting them for answers, I'm not, but my son was, and this, that, and the other, and they're like, well, I'm sorry, they're not going to give you the discount, of course, Mm-hmm. But it's just it's a hard question, and fine, but it's just a hard question to be asked. And
okay, so let's just brief them over what's happened in your case real quick, Heather. So Heather's a Gold Star family member. She's a Gold Star mother. Her son died at Fort Bragg about a year ago. She still doesn't know what day he died on. Families aren't getting answers, and their deaths are being labeled wrong. And, I'm trying to put that out there and let y'all hear from, each individual family, what happened to their kid. Her son hit his head, correct, Heather?
That's right.
Had a concussion, correct, Heather?
Yes. Correct.
Was sent to medical sent him to his barracks, correct, Heather?
medical center. He went to the medical 3 times, turned away once.
Okay, and he died in his barracks. Nobody checked on him until he was literally decomposing. He was in what stage, Heather?
He was in the 5th stage of decomposition, which is, it's the stage past rigor mortis. It's like where you're putrefying. They call it the putrefaction stage. And then his hands were being mummified. So he'd been there for some time.
Okay.
And his room was at 71 degrees. I can give you some details because these are things that people ask, I mean, because decomposition does have an effect with the temperature of the room. So he was like at 71 degrees. It talks about there being a window open somewhere around to where there was like movement of breeze. So it's not like he was stuck in a hot room, and decomposed really quickly,
Right.
And here, the facts is the very last time anyone ever talked to him was sometime on the 15th of January.
So they tried to say that he had passed away like one day in his bed before they had found him, and he was literally decomposing.
Right.
It don't make no sense.
Supposed to be viewable at his funeral. I mean, like, I was asking for, pink and greens, the Army's old iconic uniform, because Caleb he was wanting to save up for that uniform, and I was asking my congressman for it. I asked the command at Fort Bragg. I asked my casualty assistance officer. I was just like anybody. I was like, I just wanted, to be able him to be buried in what he wanted. I had no idea at the time when I was asking for that his body was too decomposed. In fact, I was just like, still couldn't even believe that he was gone. There was no indication that he would be ever, like, why would you die on a military base? I mean, the fact of the matter is that, if Caleb did die of acute bacterial meningitis, I might not have, he may have died anyway, right? But the point is that he didn't have a fighting chance. And there are medications that you can give people that have acute bacterial meningitis. Shanta?
Was he in the 82nd, Heather?
He was 82nd Airborne. I want to thank you for something real quick, because without you, I would never have known about how to fill out a FOIA, or that I should fill out a FOIA. We started talking like immediately. Shanta was just so awesome to help me. I mean, she immediately called me, and we've talked 100 times or more, hundreds of times, probably over the last, because, we talk all the daggum time. She's the first person I call. I'm like, hey, do you know about this or that? And she'll tell me a story, But without you, I wouldn't have been able to even know what to do. They're saying Caleb had, actually before that, I didn't know that they were going to say that he had acute bacterial meningitis.
And that's something that's highly contagious, correct, Heather?
It's highly contagious.
And nobody on the base had it?
Nobody on the base had it.
Okay.
And I said, that's one thing I said, is why didn't he give it to the people that
touched the doorknob?
All of it, right?
Yeah.
He was at the hospital, the guy that drove him to the ER, the other soldier that came there was one soldier that came into his room to check on him, I think on the 14th. And when, anyway, and she, had a cold press or whatever, put it on his forehead, and, she's like, I think you need to go to the doctor, And so, anyway, it's why didn't she come down with this meningitis?
Yeah.
Because he had his meningitis vaccine back at Fort Leonard Wood. I was able to find those records. And the thing is, Shanta, is that here I am educating the CID. They didn't even know anything about that. And because I ordered his phone, his records, his the FOIA, I was able to find out that he already had, a meningitis vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
When I know that I understand that this particular vaccine doesn't cover maybe the kind of meningitis that Caleb had, but even more so, why didn't the other soldiers come down with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's highly contagious.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, why put money into our soldiers and just let them die alone in their room? I mean, really, why? Where was his first line supervisor?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where was that
platoon sergeant, first sergeant, captain?
Understand. What were you saying?
Where was the platoon sergeant or the first sergeant or the captain, you know?
Right.
Why did they blame an E4 for, you know, lying? Mm-hmm. Wasn't the E4. We know how it works. We know how it works now.
Now,
no one listed always gets the blame.
We're not as stupid as they think that we are.
There's no justice. There's no accountability. If a family can't even get answers, how the hell are they going to have peace?
No justice, no peace. I just want somebody to be like upfront with me. Like I feel like I'm looking at kids who are telling me a lie, you know, and it's everybody should be embarrassed. Honestly, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, I got into a nice little.
You know, the cover-ups, it makes it worse than the death, you know, because all you want is answers. All you want is answers, and then they cover it up, and it just puts you through hell, you know.
And they make it worse.
They make it way worse.
And it steamrolls, and they have to lie about this to cover up that.
Yeah, and it lie after lie after lie, and break your heart, you know. You know, in my case, I don't get any, you know, medical records or anything. They don't exist on my sister, unfortunately.
Exactly. Isn't that crazy?
I've sent them. Congress has sent them. The VA where my father is gone has sent them. There is nothing. You don't get nothing on my sister. That's because the killer worked for the Secret Service. I really believe that. I believe they got her records on lock.
Well, there's been some talk of folks getting rid of records on your end. I know.
Right. Yeah.
Commission's case.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about that today because in this CID report here that I read of Caleb's, there's a lot of areas where I feel like they've doctored, and even my own testimony, they doctored.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa. Dude,
whoa, you altering
really
federal documents.
Stepped outside the box on that one.
Right.
I'll start sharing. I'm going to start sharing more of what I've been reading.
And something we know for sure is that they are using mental health on soldiers, policy against soldiers. In my sister's case, my sister's gunner that was with her every day, you know, he was her best friend and everything. You know, they threw him in a mental. I'm sorry, there's a train coming by. I can't get away from it.
Okay, well, we'll just pause. It'll be like the.
Everybody pause.
When the train goes by.
Okay, so.
You know what?
You know, they used mental health against this soldier. They got him out of there away from CID so he couldn't testify. They put him in a mental health unit for no reason, you know, and that was my sister's, you know, with her every day. That was her gunner. And if anybody knew anything, he knew something, you know. And in Heather's case, you know, I really hate having ADD sometimes. I had a good thought. But the problem is they're, you know, they're altering documents and stuff. Where was I going? Can you tell me?
Well, you know, you're
forgot.
talking about mental health.
Yeah.
And for soldiers, they even want to know.
Oh, yeah.
Of Gold Star mothers.
Right, there you go.
Okay, so here's what happened to me, guys. This is what the 82nd did to me. They wanted to know before they came over here to Lubbock, Texas, to meet with me.
mental health problems.
And if I had any health problems, if I've been to see a psychiatrist, if I had a weapon, and I understand like why you would want to know about the weapon part if they're coming to your house, but we were going to my congressman's office.
Right.
And I promptly told them that it was none yet, right? None of your damn business.
You know what? You use the same damn policy they use.
Or not, then God,
Heather, use the same policy they use. Tell them they are violating HIPAA laws. You can't even get your killer. Look, I couldn't even get my sister's killer's medical records. They said it was HIPAA law. The murderer couldn't see if he was on drugs. Had no rights to that.
If I am on medication, I don't know. Are we sharing medical information now? Did you want to tell me what your medical history is and if you're on medication?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's my business, but I mean, if you want to go down that path, weirdo, golly. Yeah, just the things that we have to go through. I mean, like the night that I had to go all the way to 3 Corps at Fort Hood, complain just to get Caleb's belongings, Shanta.
Mm-hmm.
It took them 6 months to get me his belongings. When Fort Bragg sent him out like 3 months, Fort Hood would not give me his belongings after only until about after 6 months. And it's just because they told the whole casualty assistance program, whoever, I don't know, they totally dropped the ball. It wasn't my casualty assistance officer.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and because he kept requesting and asking, and it was actually causing some trouble, just him requesting and asking, and people were getting defensive. It was awful. But anyway, I made a big complaint on 3 Corps, and then I had somebody get a hold of me within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Then somebody that there's a fellow that runs all of the casualty assistance offices, and he got a hold of me. We had a nice big meeting between me and my casualty assistance officer, the casualty assistance office at Fort Hood, the supervisors there, and I was able to confront some of them on a very personal level, as girls, they, and let me just say, I mean, even the JAG lawyer that came with Caleb's this last time with the command, that lawyer was very rude. She just texted on her phone the entire time, through the entire meeting. And then
y'all, this is how Gold Star families are treated.
Getting home. And, I said, when she stood up and yelled, "Woohoo, maybe I can make my flight," I was like, well, I think the most important thing that you could have done today is be here to talk to me about this, because, I mean, I waited an entire year for this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
She got real snippy with me, It's just the attitude kind of thing. That's meant to intimidate. Well, it doesn't intimidate me. Mm-hmm. Guys, I am a hardcore teacher. I've been teaching for close to 20 years now. And I've taught at a lot of the East Side schools, and I've been in various different difficult situations as a teacher. I've had people that far away from my face, spitting and yelling, so I can handle that, but I still think it's really rude, and disrespectful when you're there to talk about a soldier death.
Okay, so one more time, you guys. This is Heather. She's a Gold Star mother. Her son passed away at Fort Bragg it's been about a year now. She still don't even really know the actual day that he died. The body was sent home to decompose to open the casket.
Can I stop you for just a second, Shanta?
Yeah.
And say that when I opened, now, after we got him home, we all met at the funeral home. It was like, you know how it is, like this big procession.
Mm-hmm.
And they let me see inside the casket and my immediate family. So, my other daughter and my stepkids and and my husband at the time, they opened the casket for us. And inside the casket was a uniform laid atop of a mound, right? It looked like a mound, like it was just raised up, to lay the uniform on. Mm-hmm. What I was told by the funeral home director who did try, she wanted to open the parcel up, right? When I say the parcel, I mean the body. She, they give you these, like, an option to be able to get a thumbprint or whatever, right? Forever necklace, thumbprint, where you can carry around, your loved one's thumbprint. Well, the body was wrapped, what I was told from the funeral home director was the body was wrapped in plastic. And then on top of that, it's layered with wool. And it was all, laid out to specifications and bobby pinned all over, Mm-hmm. At the time, I really sense, and you and I have talked about this before, but I really wish that I had done an outside autopsy right then and there. But my heart was so
broken.
It's really weird to walk through something like that. You think you'd be able to, like, be sensible about, like, what you're going to do and stuff, and then you just end up writing on, like, moment by moment, like, what you need to do and what makes sense to do. And, I go back and I'm like, man, I wish I had done an outside autopsy right then and there. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I didn't. And that's something that I encourage other families to do if they are at the beginning of a situation like this. But there's no way to tell anybody because you never know who's going to do that.
You never know. You never know these soldiers when they die, you guys. You'll never find it on the media. You can't Google, like, military cover. I mean, maybe Vanessa will pop up, but ours isn't going to pop up. You have to know the name on Google. You have to know the name in order to find it. All right, go ahead, Heather.
Yeah. And it spreads, like, once unluckily social media, but think about how many stories aren't told and shared, and how many families are too afraid to talk about it, or too out emotionally to talk about it, because it is a walk on the wild side, and it is exhausting work.
Yes, it is. Sure is. It's heartbreaking.
You've been on this road for 14 years. I've been on this road for a little over a year, and I'm worn completely out. And
you guys, they say most families stop in 2 years. They hit rock bottom at 2 years. They can't do it no more.
I'm 45, and I feel like I've aged 10 years in 1 year. So I feel that way. I try very hard just to try to, exercise and eat right and all that. And I guess the best thing is just knowing you, Shanta, and other families that have lost their loved ones under mysterious circumstances. I mean, it's crazy to me that I would have never known you had this kind of crazy thing not happen to Caleb. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a lot more people that need to hear your story, and mine, and others.
Yes.
There's a common theme that's running through all of these, stories, and it all has to do with accountability. We've, seen lots of cover-ups. Even in my case, there's small little things that you're just like, what the. The thing is that it's so obvious. It's like, wow. I mean, like when you read some of these reports, you're like, wow. It looks like it really. I don't mean to be disrespectful or put anyone down, but it's like you wonder how. I don't know. Like it's very. it's like I could read better papers from like, you know, 5th graders or 6th graders, you know, or explanations.
No, I know what you're saying. It's a finger pointing game. He did it. No, he did it. Well, hell, I don't know where the order come from. Type of thing.
It's very childish. There is a lot of that.
All I can say is, if y'all have ever seen that movie, A Few Good Men, that's how it is for us. That's how we fight.
It's like being in a freaking movie.
We fight in the congressman's offices. We fight in front of people from the Pentagon. We fight in the dark, alone.
Got a hold of me couple nights after I found out Caleb had died, and it's because
Heather, what day did they claim he died on again?
4 weeks, which is ridiculous. And so a friend of mine who knew my congressman, Congressman Arrington, he hooked me up immediately, and I got a phone call at like 10 o'clock at night from Congressman Arrington, which, you know, that feels like such a, like, you feel rescued, you know. It's kind of like, Shanta, this is one thing I want to talk about. Do you remember, Shanta, when we were at Fort Hood? And Shanta and I went to Fort Hood and we protested this summer.
At the gate, y'all. We went to the gate. And my sister's first sergeant runs the military police over there.
They sat out there and watched us.
Yeah, they did. The police was outside the gate.
Nobody stayed outside the gate all week.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Vanessa Guillen protesters would show up around noon, and remember that day they showed up around noon, Shanta, and it was like the whole Mexican community like came out, and it was cars like a mile long. And
it was beautiful.
Honking and playing their Tejano music, and little grandmas were standing in the back of pickup trucks with
I loved it.
And yelling, you know. They were all yelling, "Shut down Fort Hood."
Yeah, shut down Fort Hood.
I was like, that was a trip, you know, to be right on the front lines. And I was, you know, hollering at the gate saying, I care about your soldiers, you know. It's not that I want to shut down Fort Hood or anything like that. I care about that we need people that can lead with integrity and empathy. We need to be more choosy.
Leadership needs to be held accountable. Leadership is killing our soldiers, and then they're sending them home as you know, they're being labeled wrong. You know, my sister was sent home as friendly fire, and my sister was shot 5 times in every main organ. That's not friendly.
No.
You know, Heather's son, what did they label it as, Heather?
It was just natural causes.
Natural causes. And his was medical negligence.
That killed him, but he was hit in the head. You know, he had a head wound, and they're denying the link between the head wound and the meningitis.
Right.
And it seems like such an easy way to go, okay, well, why do we have to cover up the fact that it was a head wound caused by, or a death caused by a head wound that happened at in the motor pool? Why do we have to cover that up? I don't understand why we have to cover that up.
I can answer that question. That's so that leadership doesn't have a blemish on their image and they can continue to move up in rank without no crap on their damn name, you know, on that paperwork. That's the reason. That's the real reason. I can say that. I'm a Gold Star family. I wasn't in. We need the veterans to help us, you guys. We need fair investigations. We need independent investigations.
Veterans. We love you. We Gold Stars love you so much. And I mean, I know everybody has a different kind of job, but you see death on a different level when you're, you know, everybody sees death on a different level when you're in the military. I mean, I think some of us become so, you know, possibly, or some become really callous, or they numb maybe, to where they're not empathetic anymore. And I just think that all of our soldiers would be a better part of the team if we could have more empathy training or leaders that were more empathetic. And there are leaders that are empathetic. I don't mean to put down leaders that are, and that are leading with integrity and empathy, and that are doing a great job. You know, it's not everybody, but it's growing. It's a number, Shanta, that's outrageous, and it's growing. You know, it's of people that just keep getting away with things because, you know, they're creating a culture of, well, I got away with this. So it's kind of like I tell people, if they're, you know, I feel like, you know, if you're going to get away with something as not to say that Caleb's death was small. It's not like he lost his leg, he lost his life. But if they're going to try to cover up something like that with, you know, a head wound, concussion, not checking on somebody, if they're going to cover that up, then what won't they cover up?
Right.
What won't they cover up? And then we see the whole gamut with your case, being, you know, where your sister shot in the head, and we see the Vanessa Guillen case where she's dismembered and burnt, and they're saying that she's, you know, MIA. You know, I mean, it just goes on and on from there. And then here's the deal: we can't even get any kind of coverage on our stories at all. None. Yeah. The second you say Lavina Johnson, man, you're like, whoop, out. Yeah. Not touching that. Yeah. And if you guys don't know anything about Lavina Johnson, I really encourage you to educate yourself. And
it was another case labeled wrong. There's been 2 congressional hearings ever recorded, you guys. It's the Lavina Johnsons and Pat Tillmans. Neither family received justice. Now we're facing to have a 3rd congressional hearing ever recorded. Pat Tillman was a famous football player. Do y'all really think that this next family will receive justice? The justice that I've seen is they claim that they fired some people. Well, they didn't fire nobody. They moved up in rank, moved to a different base. Well, hell, if that's firing, fire us all, you know?
Well, and here, you know, they're just demoting a specialist to a E1 for a negligent homicide. What would happen in real life? What would happen in, you know, the civilian world?
Yeah,
right?
If we were covering up a murder or part of a murder.
He didn't even lose his job.
Yeah.
He didn't lose his job.
He got moved up in rank.
And it's not just him, it's the whole chain of command that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, because it all trickles down from where? The top. And at the end is the snake of the tail, and that's the Department of Defense.
Attention to detail, boys. Attention to detail.
All right, Heather. I am calling it for a night. I love you. I will see you soon.
I love you too. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm glad to have
follow
you.
PB2 Caleb Smitty Smither, and my guys follow Shanta SHONTA Block BLOCK on TikTok, and we love you guys so much. Thank you, Shanta. I'll talk to you on the flip side.
You're welcome. Love you. Bye. Thank you for telling your story.
Yes, thank you.
And thank y'all for listening. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. You know, these soldiers, they gave their life, and you know, we owe them the respect, and we owe parents and these families, you know, as much help. I'll always help them. I'll, you know, do everything I can, you know, and anything I've learned throughout the 14 years, I'll definitely pass it on. And all I ask is that they pass it on what they learn, you know, and help the next one. And I appreciate y'all being here. And you know, leadership is killing our kids, and they're sending them home, you know, as mislabeled, and they're hurting the families. And we deserve justice. We deserve justice. We deserve court hearings the same as the state. And that's what I'm here to say. And, you know, once a week, I'm going to start showing a new family and let them tell their story. You know, and some may be gruesome and some may not be gruesome. It may be, you know, one may be medical, one may be hazed into death, you know. But You know, the patterns are there of, you know, families aren't getting answers, and, you know, they call us Gold Star families, but yet they stomp on us. You know, they don't care about us. It's just a show. They shouldn't even call us Gold Star families. I appreciate everyone being here, and this is men and women this is happening to, and